candy. Okay, here we are on our next part of we're gonna have 7 questions about the Nintendo DS lineup coming from Atlus this year. They've got Contact, Touch Detective, Deep Labyrinth, and of course we're gonna ask them about a few of their old standbys. And with me again, this is Philip Wesley for DMGIs.com, and this is Tom Hewlett for Atlus. Say hi, Tom.
Hello.
And we're going to go ahead and start asking him a few questions. Now, Contact is a Wi-Fi compatible game, and we're kind of wondering how hard was it to get Nintendo to go ahead and include that with there? Was there anything like any types of weird complications with getting a Wi-Fi came out?
No, and the Japanese version was Wi-Fi compatible, so we had to keep it for the English version. It's not really difficult to do. It's just the testing. You have to make sure to test it Wi-Fi and try all the different, what if 2 people try to connect at the same time on the same guy and whatnot. But no, Nintendo is, they want as many Wi-Fi games as possible to support the Wi-Fi connection network. So.
Tell me a little bit about Deep Labyrinth. That one's a little bit less known, and a lot of people weren't really sure. In fact, a certain forum actually said called it Yggdra Labyrinth for a little while, which was kind of amusing. But tell me a little bit about that one. Tell me, why should the American audience care about Deep Labyrinth?
Well, Deep Labyrinth is a first-person RPG, but unlike what I used to think of when I thought of first-person, so I think of you'd have the walls on either side and you'd just be going through this maze. It's not like that at all. You have a big open field, kind of like Oblivion for the next-gen era. But what else is cool about it is you attack by using the stylus like a sword on the screen. So it's kind of like the Wii concept, but on the DS. So you swing the sword, and it actually does swing where you swing it. I tried down on the floor today. I tried swinging it left to right and up and down, and the sword follows the stylus back. The other cool thing about it is, if you want to cast magic, there's a spell grid that comes up, and you draw certain shapes for different magic spells, and then you can actually link those together by drawing different shapes in unison. So you can have a fire spell, and then you can have a bigger fire spell, or you can have a huge fire spell, depending on how many runes or whatever you'd like to call them, you add on to that thing. There's 2 scenarios. There's one where you are a kid with a dog, which I call the Secret of Evermore scenario, and then there's one where you're a knight or warrior who would normally be in this labyrinth. And they're separate scenarios, so they each have their own game length and path. So it's 2 games in 1. And so you have some replay there. You have cool attacking type concept. You have your spells, and that's why people should care.
Tell me a little bit about Touch Detective. Touch Detective is apparently, according to the thing, a touchscreen and dual-screen puzzle solving that takes full advantage of the Nintendo DS. Gather evidence, talk to witnesses, and use items to further the investigation, or track down a missing person, a stolen dream, and more. Anyways, why should we care about Touch Detective?
Well, Touch Detective, for one, has a really cool art style. It's kind of like European comic-style art mixed with Tim Burton, mixed with something else. But it is a point-and-click adventure, which used to be really popular on the PC and such, but have since died out. And I thought there'd be a lot more on the Nintendo DS, but there aren't as many as you'd think. So, unlike Phoenix Wright, which has a lot of text options and things, Touch Detective, you are actually pointing and clicking and searching items. And for example, in the intro, you have to click on a rug, and then the detective character, she lifts up the rug, and there's something under it, and then you have to pull that out and search it and use it on another item, and that opens that item up, and you get a key out. So it's very much like the old-time point-and-click adventures. And it's got a, quirky cast of characters. Each level is a different case that you take on as the detective agency. And it's a lot of fun. I think kids might like it because of the art style. I think adults will like it because it's that old style of game they used to play. And it's intriguing, and puzzle solving is always fun. So pretty much anyone can enjoy it.
Out of these 3 that you've got Contact coming, Touch Detective, and Deep Labyrinth. Which one do you think will be the most popular?
I think they'll all be popular. I mean, they all have different audiences. Like, Contact is the quirky Mother style of game. Like, people thought it was Earthbound 2 until Nintendo announced Mother 3. And it has a lot of references to retro 8-bit type games. There's a mini game that looks like Gauntlet and stuff like that. And then Deep Labyrinth is the first-person RPG. It's got the quest with the kid, and it's got anime cutscenes, and it's got like the serious warrior quest. So that can, if you like dungeon hacks, that's kind of your game. And then Touch Detective is the point-and-click adventure, which is fun for all ages. And if you like mysteries and detectives, that's a good, solid game. So really, each one has its own audience, and I hope other people buy it, obviously. But I think that each audience is strong enough that they'll all do really well.
One of the Nintendo DS games you put out last year apparently seems to have been a really runaway success. Trauma Center, Under the Knife. Was that a big surprise for you guys or not?
It wasn't a surprise for me. No, we were really pleased with how that did, and most of us were expecting it to do really well because of the concept. Surgery, and it's not really possible on other consoles. I know there were some PC games that dealt with it in more of a like simulation type environment. But Trauma Center really brought in the gameplay, kind of fast and arcadey, but also strategic and slow and thoughtful. And then you have the storyline and the medical drama type stuff. And on the DS, it was the only system where it was possible. And so, coming along with that first wave of really quality DS software like Castlevania and Phoenix Wright, I think Trauma Center fit in really well with that. And I mean, at last E3, people were kind of confused about it until they played it, and they seemed to really like it. And then once it came out, it was a really good seller for us last year, and people really enjoyed it. And so that's why we're making a sequel.
Any recent acquisitions, like say, acquisitions by other companies, such as like Cooking Mama by Majesco or Owinden being published here by Nintendo? Any of those that you kind of wished you'd gotten?
All of them.
All of them. Any surprise Nintendo DS stuff coming out before the end of the year?
Well, we just announced Touch Detective at E3. That's pretty surprising. I mean, this is pretty much our lineup for the rest of the year. No surprises for 2006. But we're always looking at new games, and if I see something I like, I fight pretty hard for it. So hopefully 2007 will have more quality surprises.
I think we've got one more question left on the Nintendo DS side, and I'm going to go ahead and ask about Puyo Pop Fever for the Nintendo DS. Did that do as well as you guys hoped it would?
Well, it's a puzzle game, and so we figured Nintendo DS was pretty perfect for it. It didn't run away with success, like we would have hoped from a financial standpoint, because you always want everything to do above what you expect. The people who played it were satisfied with it, and the Puyo Pop series has been around a long time. So people who knew what to expect really bought into it and liked it on the DS with the touch screen and the 8-player mode. It didn't really seem to break out of that, but we did well in that demographic, and they really enjoyed it. So I think we did a good job on it. It just didn't do super fantastic surprise us.
Well, we're going to be right back, and we're going to go ahead and start with a little bit of questions about the Nintendo Wii. We're going to see how much we'll be able to get answered, if anything at all. Well, we'll be right back.